Hi guys, welcome to making potato lefse, a traditional dish made in Norway. Usually it's used as a treat and made for like special occasions like holidays, birthdays, and stuff like that. Now what you see before you here, kind of, is the ingredients that you need for lefse, potato lefse. There's actually a couple variations of it, depending on the region that you were born in or just who you are. You can make different variations. So what's seen here is what's on this list. There's 10 pounds of potatoes that have been peeled here in these two pots. There's a half cup of butter here in these two sticks. There's a third of a cup of heavy whipping cream. There is 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and 2.5 cups of all-purpose white flour. So first what I will do is I will fill these two pots with water just above the potatoes, and I did quarter the potatoes so they'll cook a little faster, not necessarily in order to cook them. I'll fill it with water just above the potatoes, and then I will set it on the stove for it to start cooking. And while I do that, I will talk about the origin of lefse. So originally lefse, which it was a traditional treat, was actually made into like a pancake shape. One of the versions is literally a pancake. And then it's taken and stored on a shelf until it's needed because of the ingredients made out of it lasts fairly long. And that started basically with Norway. So some of the different variations I was talking about, there's thin lefse, which is like super thin, almost like thinner than a tortilla. And then there's potato lefse, which I'm making today, which is a little thicker. And then there's Nordlands lef. It's actually left, sorry, not lefse. It's chunky and small, and typically it's a Western Norway. And I am putting these on high so they'll start to boil, because what you want is to boil till they become soft and tender. And then there's, back on the variations of lefse, there's Annie, and it's like a any seed lefse, and it's actually a whole seed that you take and you stain it over the top of it, which is an interesting process. And it comes out, when it's done, it's slightly thicker than the thin left, but it's also not like super thin. Okay guys, welcome back. As you can see, we've jumped forward a little in time, as estimated by this clock right here that you probably can't see. So what's happened while you were gone is the potatoes have boiled for a while and they've become soft and malleable. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and strain off the water and then proceed to let them cool. And what I'm going to do, because I have to handle these so I can put them through a grater basically, is I'm going to add cold water to the pot that they're in. That way they'll cool off a little faster and I don't have to sit here and let them just steam by themselves. And it'll help them from cooking too much and becoming too soft, so when I do put it through the grater it doesn't just disintegrate in my hands. Also, by washing them out, you'll help get rid of some of the starch that's left in the pot and on the potatoes, and that'll help prevent such a starchy taste. Although if you're against starch, you should pick one of the other many variations of potato lefse, because some of them don't use potatoes, like all of them except for this one don't use potatoes. And typically, actually, the only versions that did use potatoes were the ones that were made in the US, because when it was brought over, there was lots of potatoes. So the variation was quickly adapted to add potatoes in order to make more of it for cheaper. Once again, I'm rinsing off the potatoes to cool them down. I'm just doing this for the second pot now at this point. Most of this will probably get cut out anyway, but hey. So now that I have the potatoes cooked and ready, what I'll start to do is, what you're supposed to use is what's called a potato ricer, and it's like a garlic press. I'll actually insert a picture here of it for you. Of what it is. But basically it just takes it and cuts it into small pieces for you, and then it helps give you a certain consistency that you would need for this. But as I was looking through my kitchen, I didn't have one, and found that a cheese grater, actually, this utensil, will give me approximately the same consistency as a potato ricer. I just have to see. And as you can see, it comes out looking like cheese, which is literally the same exact thing that you would get from a... After having riced the potatoes with the cheese grater, you then take and mix all of the ingredients into a mixing bowl, and it comes to about the consistency of what you see in the picture above. After that, you then let it cool down to room temperature, because if you try and work the potatoes while they're hot, it will not work. So you let them cool down. Once it's cool, then you take and you proceed to the next picture. You then take and proceed and make it into balls with flour on them so you can work them easier, and then after that, you then proceed to flatten the balls that you've just made with a rolling pin. Typically you're supposed to use a corrugated rolling pin, so it'll give a raised surface in some areas on it, but I did not have one. After that, you then put it in the pan and let it cook till it starts to get to a kind of a brownish color on one side, but it'll also start to bubble if you have it thin enough. It is supposed to be an 1/8 of an inch thick. And then after that, you can see the final product here. And that has been our presentation on Norway, from the scenic and beautiful views of the mountains to our pop culture currently, and even one of a traditional and special treat made for holidays and birthdays. This has been presented by Emmy, Jacob, and Luke. Thank you for your time, and thanks for coming out.